After attending my dad's burial, my stepmother now believes she could run my life. She seems to be able to enter my dad's mansion, change everything, renovate, and act any way she pleases once he is gone. The important thing is that I have news for her. Guess what? I just discussed his will with the attorney for my dad. My stepmother, in my opinion, is planning to make my brothers and I homeless. To be honest, I have no idea what to do about it. Of the 3 children, I am the oldest. My sister is just 12. My little brother is 15. Our mother died of cancer 6 years ago. For every one of us, it was a truly difficult period. My dad was so damaged he could hardly take care of himself, let alone us, so once Mom passed, I had to step up and look after my siblings. First year without Mom was terrible. When I finally convinced my dad to attend to bereavement counseling and therapy, he profited greatly. His recovery began. He transported us to and from school, stayed with us more often, helped us with homework, and even planned summer trips. Things were starting to turn around. Though things was not as horrible as it had been, we still missed Mom. Then Catherine arrived on the scene. My dad ran across Catherine at a business function. Mom passed 4 years ago at the time, so it didn't feel like he was moving on too fast. Being a family man, my dad often told us he felt guilty about us having to grow up without a mother or other guardian. My dad's not like that. I never considered he was attempting to replace her. Catherine, though, seemed to be assuming Mom's responsibility. She was quite kind when we first met her. Most likely to win us over, she brought us small gifts and sweets. Saying he understood she could never replace Mom, but that it would make him happy if we gave her a try, Dad encouraged us to treat her kindly. We so gave it a try. At least we did try sincerely. I should point out that my family is really wealthy. In the business sector, my dad became really well known. We go to private school, live in what most people would consider a mansion, have maids, a cook, and even property managers who look after the house. And occasionally us. Dad is busy. Catherine seemed to love these luxuries a little too much. Things started to change when Dad and Catherine got engaged. She moved in with us and began changing everything. She wanted to redesign several rooms, and in the process, she took down all the pictures of us with Mom. That upset me, so I moved the pictures into our bedroom, but Catherine didn't like that either. My little sister didn't warm up to Catherine, not because she hated her, but because she's always been shy. She doesn't like being around strangers and usually sticks close to me or Dad when we're out. If she came across Catherine alone, she'd run away or avoid her, not to be rude, but because she felt nervous. Catherine didn't handle this well. At first, she seemed okay with it, and I guess Dad told her that my sister takes time to warm up to people. But after about 5 months of living with us, Catherine started being mean to her. If my sister didn't respond when Catherine spoke to her, Catherine would yell at her and make her cry. She always did this when Dad wasn't around. My younger brother didn't like Catherine either, but he kept his feelings to himself because he didn't want to upset Dad. We did everything we could to protect my sister from Catherine. If my sister needed something from the kitchen but Catherine was there, one of us would go get it for her. At dinner, we let her sit between us and would steer the conversation if Catherine tried to ask her anything. Mom always taught me and my brother to look out for her, so we saw it as a way to honor Mom's memory. Things got even worse after Dad and Catherine got married. The wedding itself was unpleasant. We didn't want to be part of it, but Dad asked us to, so we went along with it for him. During the rehearsals, Catherine was nasty to us, saying we weren't walking properly or messing up the timing with the music. The reception was just as bad. It felt like things were falling apart. When Catherine was thanking everyone at the wedding, she said she was looking forward to being a mother to his children. That really upset us because she's not our mom. We were only being polite to her because Dad loves her, and we wanted him to be happy. After the wedding, Catherine got mad when we didn't call her Mom. Before they got married, we had agreed to call her Miss Catherine, and she was fine with it. But now that she was Dad's wife, she said that wasn't good enough. Whenever we were out, she introduced us as her children. I always corrected her by saying we were her stepchildren. At PTA meetings or school events, she would introduce herself to our teachers and friends as our mom. I'd step in and explain that she was our stepmom. Most people already knew our mom had passed away, so they respected that and referred to Catherine as our stepmom. That made her really mad, and she'd go to Dad to complain about us. But Dad stood his ground. He told her she needed to stop trying to force us to accept her on her terms. He explained that losing our mom when we were young left a hole in our lives and that her memory would always be important to us. He said Catherine should try to find her own role in our lives instead of trying to replace Mom. For a while, she stopped insisting we call her Mom, but things still weren't good. I started hating being at home, especially when Dad wasn't there. His job kept him busy, but being stuck at home with Catherine was exhausting. I felt like I was always walking on eggshells around her. I dreaded weekends so much that I signed up for as many extra school activities as possible to have an excuse to stay out longer. I also made sure I was the first one home every day so my siblings wouldn't have to be alone with her. Catherine doesn't work. She spends her time shopping, hanging out with her friends, or just lounging around the house. She doesn't cook or clean because Dad has people to handle those things. We mostly took care of ourselves so she wouldn't have any reason to bother us. But every interaction with her felt forced and uncomfortable. It was draining just to be around her. Catherine's kindness was always fake, especially when Dad was around. But enough about that. Now let me tell you about the hardest part. 5 weeks ago, I got a call that changed everything. Dad had a medical emergency and was rushed to the hospital. My siblings were pulled out of school, and we all went straight there. Catherine was already at the hospital with my dad's assistant, but the doctors were still working on him, so we had to wait. Unfortunately, Dad had suffered a massive heart attack, what they called a widowmaker. He didn't make it. My heart broke into pieces. The only parent we had left was gone, but I had to stay strong for my siblings. My younger sister took it the hardest. She refused to sleep alone and clung to me constantly. Catherine didn't involve us in the funeral planning at all. The only thing she listened to was my suggestion to delay the funeral so Dad's colleagues and friends from across the country and overseas could attend. The atmosphere in the house was worse than when Mom died, mostly because now we had to deal with Catherine. For the first 3 weeks after Dad passed, I didn't see much of her. But this past week, she's been moving around the house more, and she doesn't seem sad at all. What's worse, I overheard her on the phone talking about turning my sister's bedroom into a tea-out. My sister's room has the best view in the house, overlooking the garden. I don't know what Catherine is planning, but it feels wrong. Dad isn't even buried yet, and she's already talking about changing things. It's disgusting. I haven't had a good night's sleep since I overheard her. The funeral is tomorrow, and some of Dad's family is in town. We don't know them well because they live far away, but I'm wondering if they might help us. I'm so worried that once the funeral is over, Catherine will kick me and my siblings out of the house. I don't even know if Dad had a will. He wasn't that old, so I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't make one. If there's no will, does that mean Catherine gets everything? I have no idea how inheritance works. I'm just a college freshman. I wasn't prepared for this kind of stress so early in life. If anyone has advice, I could really use it. If your dad didn't leave a will, his estate would likely be split evenly between you and your stepmom. Don't let her intimidate you. Stay close to your siblings because people might try to take advantage of them if they inherit a significant amount of money. Worst case, if your dad did leave a will and gave the mansion to your stepmom, you'll need to reach out for help. Start with your family members, and if you have godparents, contact them right away. Godparents usually promise to help take care of their godchildren if something happens to the parents. Good luck. I'm rooting for you. It sounds like your stepmom is just giving back the same energy she's been receiving. If you've been cold to her from the start, it's no surprise that she's acting distant now. If I were you, I'd try to get on her good side. If your dad left her the house, she has every right to ask you to leave it. It doesn't seem like you have anywhere else to go, so be careful about how you handle things. Update. A few days ago, we had my dad's funeral. It was a huge service. People came from out of town and even overseas. I never realized how far my dad's influence had spread. I met so many people, and they were all so kind. Many of them gave me and my siblings their business cards and told us to reach out if we ever needed anything. A lot of them shared stories about how Dad helped save their businesses or invested in their startups when nobody else believed in them. Apparently, Dad loved to talk about us because most of them already knew our names and the things we liked. They even brought us gifts, mostly snacks and candies from their countries. Catherine, however, kept interrupting every conversation. She'd ask if we were okay or if we needed anything. It was obvious she was putting on an act for everyone, pretending to be a caring stepmother when she really didn't care about us at all. After the burial, there was a gathering at the mansion. There was a ton of food and lots of people laughing and chatting, but my siblings and I weren't in the mood for any of it. We just buried our father, and celebrating felt wrong. We said hello to the guests, but then spent most of the time in our rooms. I started looking through the business cards people gave us, wondering who might be able to help us if things go south. I was still really worried about the idea of having to leave the mansion. Even though I had the business cards from my dad's friends, then hours after most of the guests had left, Catherine came to get us from our rooms. She said we needed to have a family meeting. We went to the den, and she told us that she understood we were grieving since we had just buried our dad. But then she dropped a bombshell. She was giving us 5 months to move out of the mansion. I was shocked and asked if she was serious. My younger siblings are just kids, and I've only just started college. She really expected us to leave our childhood home and find a new place to live in 5 months. She said there were plenty of people at the funeral who had offered to help us and that we should reach out to them. She also added that since Dad was gone, she didn't want to deal with us anymore. I was so angry, but I didn't want to say something I might regret. I grabbed my siblings and we went back to our rooms. On the way, we ran into a guest who hadn't left yet. He apologized for surprising us and handed me his business card. He said he was my dad's lawyer and wanted to talk about matters related to Dad's estate. He told me to take some time to grieve and to call him when I was ready. I don't know if he talked to Catherine too, but I've been holding onto his card ever since. I can't help worry that he might be working with Catherine, and if that's the case, he wouldn't be much help. I feel so lost right now. My younger siblings keep asking if we're really going to have to leave, and I don't know what to say to them. We met with my dad's lawyer the other day, and everything has changed. I finally called him and arranged a meeting at the house. He hadn't spoken to Catherine at all, only to us. When I told Catherine that Dad's lawyer was coming over, she seemed confused. Honestly, I didn't care what she thought. When he arrived, he opened his briefcase and asked if we were okay with Catherine being in the room while we talked. Catherine got really offended. She said she was Dad's widow and had the right to be involved in matters of his estate. The lawyer calmly replied that this specific discussion didn't involve her. Then he turned back to me and asked again if I was okay with her staying. Told the lawyer it was fine for Catherine to stay in the room as long as he didn't go into too much detail. The short version of what he told us is that my dad never updated his will after marrying Catherine. This means she isn't included in it at all. She gets nothing. The will states that the mansion belongs to me and my siblings. It also says that if Dad passed away before we finished school, his money would be used for our education. Whatever was left, along with all his investments and dividends, would be held in a trust. Once we're grown and have stable jobs, the trust would be split evenly between the three of us. The lawyer said it might sound complicated, but my dad left enough money to make sure we'll be taken care of for a while. He also mentioned he talked to my dad's accountant, who managed his bank accounts and investments, to help explain everything more clearly. There's some paperwork we'll need to sign soon, but this meeting was just to let us know what's going on. After the lawyer explained everything, Catherine interrupted and asked, "What about me?" He calmly explained again that since my dad didn't update his will to include her, she wasn't entitled to anything. He added that me and my siblings could choose to give her something if we wanted, but that would be entirely up to us. At that point, Catherine stormed out of the room. I can't even describe how relieved I felt hearing this news. After the lawyer left, my siblings and I decided to celebrate. We ordered our favorite food and started talking about what we want to do with the mansion. One thing I want is for my mom's pictures to go back up next to my dad's. They never should have been taken down in the first place. As for Catherine, I'm torn. Part of me wants to give her a taste of her own medicine by threatening to kick her out, just like she tried to do to us. But I don't want to stoop to her level. I don't hate her as much as she seems to hate us. She's been sulking in her room ever since the lawyer left. I don't even know how to handle things if she starts yelling or causing trouble. If that happens, I might actually lose my temper. Update 3. Hey, everyone. It's been about 3 months since my last update. Things have been pretty weird, and I've been busy trying to figure everything out while taking care of my siblings. But now I'm seriously considering kicking Catherine out of the house. At first, I didn't care much about Catherine staying because I thought she'd leave on her own eventually. But she's made me so angry. About 3 to 4 weeks after the lawyer came to meet us, she served us with court papers. She was trying to get an injunction to stop us from kicking her out of the house. This after she threatened to kick us out. I couldn't believe how bold she was. Not only that, but she was also trying to claim part of our inheritance since Dad didn't leave her anything. Right after she handed me the papers, I called my dad's lawyer and told him what was going on. He told me to bring the papers to his office right away. I didn't waste any time. I was at his building even before he got to work because I wanted this dealt with quickly. When he read through the papers, he told me not to worry. He said no reasonable judge would overturn a clear will just to make a spouse happy. I asked him what I should do next, and he told me to go home and wait for updates. Even though he reassured me, I felt uneasy at home. Sometimes I'd overhear Catherine talking about how she was going to own the mansion once she got rid of us. It gave me chills. Sure enough, about a month later, the lawyer told me the case had been thrown out. The judge ruled that my dad's will was clear and valid, and the court couldn't overturn his final wishes. The lawyer explained that wills sometimes exclude spouses or even children, so what Catherine was asking for wasn't just unreasonable. It was ridiculous. She wanted the mansion, half the money, and half the investments. On top of that, she claimed in the documents that she helped raise his 3 children. She was only married to him for 3 years, a tiny fraction of our lives. Our real mom raised us for much longer, even though she's been gone for 8 years. While I'm relieved this is over, I've realized it's a bad idea to let Catherine stay in the house after everything she's done. At first, I felt a little sorry for her, but now I know she'll just keep causing trouble for me and my siblings. I went back to my dad's lawyer to ask what we could do. He told me I could go to court and request an eviction notice since we own the house outright. However, he also suggested I ask Catherine to leave politely first. That way, if she refuses, it'll look better to the judge. If I'm being honest, I didn't even want to talk to Catherine, but I decided to give it a try. Wish me luck. 4. Well, it's finally over, and I'm happy to share that Catherine is gone. After everything she's done, I don't feel sorry for her anymore. Here's what happened. Remember how my dad's lawyer suggested I ask her nicely to leave? I did exactly that. I approached her calmly and asked if we could talk. When we sat down, I told her I understood that my dad loved her very much and that she must be sad he's gone. But I also told her I didn't appreciate how she treated me and my siblings, especially right after his funeral. I reminded her that we had just buried Dad, and she gave us 5 months to leave the only home we'd ever known. Then she tried to take the house from us, even though Dad clearly wanted us to have it. I told her it felt like she was willing to do anything to get what she wanted. I also told her that her presence in the mansion made it feel unsafe for me and my siblings. Finally, I gave her 110 days to move out. She completely flipped out. She yelled that if Dad were alive, he'd never treat her this way. She said that if we were uncomfortable, we should leave. She insisted that as Dad's widow, she had every right to stay in the mansion. At that point, I was done. I calmly said, "Okay," went to my room and called the lawyer. Told him I tried asking nicely, but she clearly wasn't willing to leave. I gave him the go-ahead to file the eviction notice. Catherine was acting like she was entitled to things that didn't belong to her, and it was time for her to go. Sure enough, about a month later, she was served with the eviction notice. She tried to fight it, but the court ruled in our favor. The house was legally and irrevocably ours, and we were well within our rights to ask her to leave. We didn't owe her anything. On the day she was supposed to move out, I made sure I had backup, just in case she tried anything sneaky. But in the end, she packed her things and left. The sigh of relief I let out when she was finally gone, I can't even describe it. Since then, things have been so much better. My younger sister seems happier and has started exploring the house more. I know it's going to be hard without our parents, but I'm just glad we can finally move on from all this drama and focus on healing. Top comment 1. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you were able to get that woman out of your life. The way she treated you and your siblings, especially after everything you've been through, was horrible. She really made things worse when you were already grieving. Honestly, good for your dad for not including her in the will. I hope you and your siblings can start to heal and grow after all this. I've been through a lot of loss recently too, and I just want you to know that you'll be okay. Things will feel different, and there will be tough days, but you'll get through it. 2 notes. The whole circumstances made me uneasy. Although your stepmother treated you poorly, you also mentioned she made your dad happy. She ought to have something for that. Your dad not included her in the will at all seems odd. Was she only someone to cover the void left by your mother's death, or did he even show her any care? While you might not be offended for her, I am. Try to be in her place. She joined him as his wife, then he passed away leaving nothing. That had to be absolutely terrible. Perhaps she handled it incorrectly, but I believe a small amount of compassion would help. Story point of view, Catherine's actions was really rather out of line. Imagine attempting to take all for yourself after someone dies knowing they have children depending on them. It is greedy and nasty. She showed little regard for what her stepchildren were going through and seemed poisonous and manipulative. OP managed the matter really nicely. The correct action was to show up for court with the eviction notice. Clearly, Catherine wasn't going to be leaving on her own, and she didn't deserve to be living in a place she didn't own. When it comes to inheritances, wills, and family conflicts, stories like this tragically are rather typical. When money and emotions are involved, it's usually messy, especially in stepfamilies and with untimely deaths. How do you see this matter? Have you ever handled anything comparable? Comments below allow you to share your ideas. And remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new here for more tales like this one. I appreciate you seeing the video today. I am Revenge Online and daily share and animate stories. Just click the subscribe button right here if you wish to participate in these daily drama-packed events. See you tomorrow. Have an amazing day. And keep in mind, being nice is always great. See you not too far off.